But the fact of the matter is if you feel pressure from people you call your friends, I'm sorry, they're not your friends.
Yeah, simple as that, really, isn't it?
It's as simple as that. Welcome back.
Welcome back once again. Episode 12 of the Way It Goes podcast.
Episode 12.
Yeah. We're coming a long way.
I'm still like, it only feels like yesterday that we started this.
It honestly does, yeah. But we are sort of in the swing of it as well at the same time.
Yeah,
it's a bit unusual,
yeah.
isn't it? It's a bit odd, yeah. Like we can't decide whether it feels normal and part of our routine or whether it's still far-fetched. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate all of the comments and all of the feedback as usual. If you have any submissions for stuff that you'd like us to talk about, please do contact us on Instagram and yeah, all the usual platforms. We are at twig.podcast on all socials, or of course you can contact us through our normal means of our Instagrams and so on, our personal Instagrams. Yeah, I'd like to preface this episode once again with we are filming on the same day as the last episode, and so I'm still very unwell. So please excuse the fact that I sound like Barry White and I might cough a little bit during the recording.
Also, just not very nice. So you are aware, we do record these in bulk. So if you do send us a submission and we don't feature it on an episode, please don't be disheartened.
No,
it
be patient.
Be featured.
It will be here.
It will come out.
Yeah, definitely.
We promise.
Yeah, so it's been an awesome ride so far with the podcast, I think. And,
yeah,
we'd love to hear what you guys think. So, you know, any submissions or comments, always really appreciated. And of course, please do share us with your friends, family, loved ones, whoever you think might enjoy the podcast. Please do share it and leave us reviews on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Deezer, all that good stuff. And yeah, in terms of YouTube, we'd love a subscribe. So please hit that button if you are willing.
Like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, all that good stuff. So today we are going to be talking about the need to fit in.
Which we had a brief discussion on the other night, didn't we?
We did, yeah. We were talking to some friends about this and it was quite an interesting topic of debate. I think the general consensus was there's a lot of people who probably felt the need to fit in whilst they were in like their younger years and education, you know, school, college, uni, whatever. But then there's also a lot of people who probably feel like they have more of a need to fit in now that they've gone out into the career world, into their trade or whatever.
Yeah, I 100% think there's an element of that because, you know, you walk into a workplace and you've got to kind of acclimate to your surroundings.
Yeah.
And when you're, you know, obviously when you first start a new job, you're trying to impress the boss and stuff like that. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is you do change yourself in very subtle ways just to kind of make sure that you're fitting into your environment in a workplace perspective. Like, we're very fortunate that we work in a work environment that allows you to be an individual and allows you to be yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
But there are a lot of environments, offices, site work. Site work is, in my opinion, one of the biggest places where people kind of put on a persona.
Yeah, probably.
Having worked there myself and having friends that work in sites in London, it's you don't realise it. You kind of have to put on this,
like Jack the Lad persona.
Yeah, this kind of laddie persona. And don't get me wrong, some people don't. Some people, but you often find those people are to themselves, like keep themselves to themselves. Yeah. Not in a sense that people leave them out, like in a sense that they just keep to themselves. Because I know that was kind of my vibe when I worked on sites, was that I just kind of kept to myself because I wasn't really in that laddie, Jack the Lad kind of. Yeah. I've never been that sort of person, so it's quite. I feel that it's more prominent in workplaces than it is schools.
Yeah,
maybe in the UK, maybe in other countries it's a little bit different, but in the UK especially, I didn't feel like I needed to fit in.
I guess that's down to the individual, isn't it? Like, I think a lot of people are probably you do get those individuals that I think are a bit like a chameleon, like that whichever crowd they go to, they gravitate towards, they end up adapting to that. And I'm not sure if I particularly agree with that in myself. Like, I'm I try and be quite true to myself, regardless of environment and regardless of who I speak to.
You're always true to yourself.
Yeah.
Whenever you're in a group of people, you're always you.
Yeah, and that's something that people have said to me about the podcast. Actually, I had a few people at work come up to me and be like listening to the podcast, that is you. And I now know that you at work is also you.
Yeah.
Which is really nice to hear, because that's what I try. I just try. It doesn't matter who I'm talking. I could be talking to the King of England. I'm still going to be myself. I'm not going to suddenly change who I am.
And this is the thing.
But of course, there's etiquette involved with talking to certain people.
Yeah.
If it's like a big boss or something like that, you kind of you've got to be wary about what I say. That's fair enough. But I think if you completely change your persona and pretend to be something you're not true to yourself. So
people respect you less.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or at least I've found that people respect you less if you're not.
So I try personally to just be me, whatever scenario I'm in. But not everyone does that, and I think that's kind of what this is about. Is especially when you're growing up, I think it's a natural instinct to want to fit in somewhere, and so I guess that probably depends on your upbringing and your background and that kind of thing a lot as well. But in terms of school groups and stuff, I see it a lot in American media, interestingly. When you see American films, and it's
you've got the jocks,
college kid,
you've got the nerdy kids, you've got the popular girls, stuff like that. And
it shows the different cliques and the different social.
I don't think that is exactly how their school. It's very dramatised and exaggerated. But the thing is in some circumstances that is the way it is. I feel like over here it's not so much the same. I think you do have your split of the popular kids and the unpopular kids. But I think that is changing. I think that's ever changing. But I feel like it's changing to the point where it's just sort of. Maybe it's because I've been out of I left school bloody years ago now, over 10 years. So for me, it's kind of a case of bloody hell. What was that?
It's just the wind.
Massive gale force winds just outside.
It's windy yesterday.
But I feel like for me, especially I'm not. But maybe that's me personally. But I'm not the type of person that sort of feels like I need to be in a group. In terms of I need to be this person that these people all see me as. Yeah. I'm always myself. Or at least I always try to be myself, and I always try to be who I am. I try not to change, for anyone. The thing is, I've seen what that looks like, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Yeah, I don't like the chameleons. I don't like people who are. It's almost two-faced, isn't it? To see someone's personality change completely when they change who they're hanging around with. I think that's going to lead to unhappiness for people who do that throughout life.
Because you lose yourself in it. You lose yourself in. You lose who you are in trying to be the person that these people want you to be, or that these people that you hang around with, or these different groups that you hang around with. You lose yourself in who actually are you? And it's a really interesting thought, to be fair. When you're blending with loads of different groups, do you really know who you are? Yeah. Because you're blending so much that are you staying true to yourself in every situation and every group you're in? And I think that's a really hard thing to do. I think
it is, yeah.
You always, I think in everyone, that everyone finds a way. Sometimes they will say certain things around certain people, or certain slang and stuff like that around certain people, but in other groups they won't. Or they'll be interested in certain things around one group of people, but in another group of people they won't admit to their interest in certain things. And I don't think it's I think it's kind of a automatic response. Yeah. You don't see yourself doing it. You just do it. I know I used to do years ago. When I had loads of different groups of friends, I would be different around different groups.
What do you think then is there something that springs out to you, something that you've done, you've done in the past in order to try and fit in? Is there something that stands out to you that you remember doing specifically just because you wanted to fit in with a certain crowd?
I think it's the obvious one, smoking.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
When I first smoked, because obviously I don't anymore.
Yeah.
But when I first smoked, it wasn't to impress the people I was around.
No.
It was more a case of, oh, but they're all doing it, so I should get involved as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's probably the only time that I've made a drastic change to
Like
myself.
a life choice, yeah.
Like a life choice to fit in with a group.
Yeah. And what's your thoughts on that now that you're out of that situation?
Oh, it was dumb. It was so dumb. Like, I didn't want to smoke.
Yeah, you just did it because
I just did it because everyone else was doing it.
A lot of people probably get into like drugs and stuff.
I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah,
I hated it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll never forget. So I went on a night out with the two of my different groups of friends. One group had no idea that I was smoking, and the other group was obviously the group that I was with that I was smoking with. I went outside and prefaced it with I'm just going to pop out and have a chat.
Yeah. AKA a smoke.
I'm going out for a smoke.
Yeah.
Went out, started smoking a cigarette. Didn't realise the time.
Yeah.
It was kick out. So all of my other friends have started walking out and they see me outside with a cigarette.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? Mm-hmm. What are you doing? And I'm like, Busted, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. Right, well, this is about to get awkward.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there was never like pressuring me to explain yourself. What are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? It was a case of like, I didn't expect that of you.
Yeah.
Because they know one side of me, they don't know this other side around this other group.
Yeah.
And I think it's taken me a long time to sort of, I guess, merge my personalities is the wrong term, but like to work out what person that I am, the kind of person that I am, and the kind of things that I want to do with my life and stuff like that. And I think, like we were saying in the last episode with the New Year's resolutions, this year is the year that I'm doing what I want in terms of I'm holding myself accountable. I'm not people pleasing and stuff like that. I'm not trying to blend in with the group that I'm around. I'm just being me. No, unapologetic, just me. And if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Fair enough, yeah. I think in terms of like, especially stuff like smoking and things like that, probably when you're the best thing I can say really, I guess, is that when you are younger, you are going to fall into those traps. Like, that's just how, like, it's part of your learning, your development.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like in your early 20s, or if you're like a late teen and you're, out partying, or you're trying to fit in socially with different
Someone's
groups,
going to offer you a cigarette.
Yeah, and not just cigarettes. Like, it's whatever you decide to experiment with in that time period, or whatever mistakes you make during that time period. I don't think you should necessarily beat yourself up about them, because that's part of your journey in discovering who you are and what you want. And looking back at that now as someone who's like approaching my 30s, like, I don't look back at those times and think about all the times I got paralytic drunk and all that and think, oh, I wish I hadn't done that, because it was all part of, I don't really drink now, and the only reason I don't really drink now is because I've done that, and I don't live for it. Like, I've got more in my head, I've got more important things to do. So I wouldn't know that now if I hadn't have experienced that then. So I think it is worth just pointing out that it's not necessarily a bad thing to be influenced into trying to fit in. Like, I think trying to fit in, this whole concept, I think that's natural. As a human, you want to fit in, you want to find your peers. And we've discussed many times before, like, I think it takes a while for you to figure out who your tribe is, and who your people are.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to figure that out and you're trying to wedge yourself into places, that's quite normal, and that's quite a normal human thing to do, I think. So I don't think you should beat yourself up about it. But I think the older you get and the more experienced you get and the more you've been through that, I think the more likely you are to just realise that actually people who are like you will gravitate towards you, and vice versa. Yeah. And you don't have to adapt who you are for those people.
No, not at all. I don't think that you should adapt to the people that are around you. I've just noticed you've got another spider on you.
Have I?
Yeah, right on your head.
Oh, I can feel it, actually. Oh, there he is. Hello, mate. God, he's tiny, isn't he?
That's like the third spider
I'd love
today.
to know. Yeah, they're obviously attracted to me today. I'm going to put him over here. He's like trying to
Just
web
pop him down
his-
over there.
There we go. There's one I prepared earlier. Yeah, I don't know where they're all coming from. I seem to be just like
You seem to be
covered
attracting them.
covered in spiders
I've
today.
not had a single spider on me today.
Isn't that weird?
Weird. Anyway, we digress. Yeah, I don't think you should force yourself into, you know, believing what other people believe, sort of mentality. Like, you know, like for in my example, like for smoking and stuff like that.
Yep.
Seeing people smoking, thinking, oh, I have to smoke to you know, be friends with these people. I didn't. They would have been cool with me regardless.
Yeah, you just felt like that's.
I
What
just
was
felt like
needed
that was
at
the
time.
needed.
Yeah, that's it.
And I think a lot of people could benefit from just not like. One thing I heard was it was in a song actually. It was the you know, don't tell your friends their opinion holds so much weight,
Right.
and that is so true.
Yeah.
If your friend says, like you say, so for instance, I go, I really like card games, and you go, I don't think you should play card games. Your opinion holds weight to me.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so that might influence what you actually want to do, which
Exactly.
isn't ideal because really, my opinion's irrelevant.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it's not a case of me saying like, don't tell your friends any of your interests. Absolutely tell them your interests, but when their opinion holds as much weight as, you know, when you say I like card games and someone says I don't like card games, and you go, oh, if you have a fundamental crisis about the fact that you like card games.
Yeah.
At that point, you need to understand that friendship may not be what you think it is.
Exactly. Yeah, because that person should be friends with you regardless of your interests.
Exactly that.
And I think that's something that. I mean, we've talked a little bit before about in some of the other episodes about friendships and finding your people and everything. And I feel like that's where we're in a really good place because we've got a sort of a relatively large group of friends who all have very different interests.
100%.
You know, for example, I don't go gigging as much as you and Tay do, for example, or you and Kane. And likewise, you're not as into cars as I am, and all those sort of things. So we've got very different hobbies and interests, but we don't try and we only encourage that. Like, I will always encourage you to go and you're excited for a gig, I'm excited for you to go to that gig, even if it's something I don't give a monkey's about.
Yeah.
And likewise, you know, if I say, oh my God, I got this cool car coming that I'm going to do some video with, you're just like, whatever, dude, like, I don't really care. But you're excited for me because that's what the friendship is about. It's not necessarily about I need to conform to what you like and you need to conform to what I like. It's just about encouraging each other to be better people and encouraging each other to do the things that you love doing. I think that's the key. But I definitely think it's something that you don't really learn straight away. Like that's the message I really want to get across in this, is that I don't think you're going to know that when you're 21. I think you're going to do everything you can to fit in when you're 21, and not, you know, you're not going to be in the mindset that we're in right now, sitting here having this conversation where it's like we've been through that bit and we know that actually, do you know what, you don't need to fit in. And I think the other one as well probably is appearance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a big thing, especially because of the boom of social media, Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. Like, probably more so with women, I would say, and like younger girls.
I mean, I've experienced it. I mean, when I first started working in an office, I was like, cool, I can't get any more tattoos. I can't get any piercings or any more piercings, because I don't want to be unemployable.
Yeah.
And I think that's the wrong way to look at it. If a company bases your employability on your tattoos and your piercings, that's not a company worth working for.
No, exactly that.
Because they're not looking at you as an individual. They're looking at you as a number.
Yeah, like an entity.
An
just
entity.
a robot
It's
for
like,
their numbers. Yeah.
You'll process what I
mean, look at our boss. Obviously, not naming names. Our boss has some awesome tattoos.
Oh,
and he's a lovely guy, and he is very successful in the business, and you know, he expresses himself the way he wants to express himself.
Exactly.
And that's amazing. Like that's what it's all about, isn't it?
He's a cracking guy. He's got the same football team as me. So
funny you say that though, because that's something I wanted to talk about actually. Is that, you know me, I'm not a big sports guy. Like I quite like car sports. I quite like F1. I'm kind of into rally. I'm really into and autocross and stuff like that. But I'm not not a big football guy. I'm not a rugby guy. I just don't really care.
I mean, neither am I.
Yeah.
But I have a team that I support.
Yeah, but that's a big thing growing up as a lad in the UK. The majority of guys are like big on football. Like that's like the go-to. Let's go down the pub and watch the footy, and everyone goes crazy over it. I'm just not interested. I'm not that guy. I'm not gonna.
I like the rugby.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Rugby's
That is interesting to watch. But in general, like it doesn't get me going. It doesn't get my heart racing. Like I'm not passionate about it. I'm not going to be one of these guys that's in the pub punching walls when their team's losing. Like I just don't get it. I don't understand it at all. But loads of people are like that, and so that I think was a big struggle for me growing up and going through school and sort of I didn't go to college, but sixth form, and then coming out into the sort of the real world and getting a job and that kind of thing. It's like that's the first thing another guy will talk to you about is, oh, what football team do you support, or like, oh, what did you see the game on Sunday, or whatever. Like, and it's like for me, I'm just like I'm not fussed by that. And so there was definitely a transitional period in my life, especially when everyone was going out to the pubs all the time and all that. When you're like, I don't know, 18, 19, 20, whatever, and everyone's out all weekend and all the rest of it. There was definitely a period of time then where I was like, right, I've got to just lump it. And to be fair, like when it comes to like World Cup season and stuff like that, I do get into it and I do enjoy it. Yeah,
when it comes to like your country, it's different.
Yeah, like I enjoy it. And everyone gets the same spirit
team.
Of it. Yeah, and it's like it's a lot more enjoyable for me. But just the general matches that you see on in the pub at the weekend and stuff like that, I just don't follow it. I'm not interested.
I think my biggest problem with it is the mentality of people that are around it. Like you said with the World Cup season, everyone's supporting
even
each
people
other.
that don't get involved in football, they get involved in it because it's a team,
exactly.
Like,
and when it's team,
like the Olympics, isn't it? It's like people get into it because it's a national thing. It's like a national.
And that's it. And that's the thing for me. Like, I like it when it's national, and I have a team that I support. But I'm not like, if someone come up to me and went, "Well, I support this team," I'd be like, "Okay, cool,
yeah.
Good for you." Yeah. Like I'm glad you have a team that you support. I'm glad you enjoy that.
Yeah, but that's for me like the thing that when I was going to the pub and all that, and there was at some points I have had a crowd that is really into that, and I'm kind of just there like I'm glad they're enjoying themselves, but I'm just not really into it, and I'm like. And a lot of people who are into football like that are big on drinking as well, and I'm not big on drinking. So it's like, I'll get this down, I'll have another beer, do this, do that, and you just kind of like it's a bit like peer pressure thing. Like you just and you think you're going to get into it and enjoy it, but you're just really doing it because you want to fit into that crowd, you want to belong somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think there's quite a lot of power in changing that mindset, and I kind of got to a point with that particular crowd where I was like happy to go out with them and good to catch up with them and that, but when they're like, "Oh, have another beer," I'm like, "No, I'm cool, mate. Like, I'm not interested."
Yeah.
And at first, they would very much be like, "Oh, come on, don't be like that. Just having a." But eventually, if they are your friends, they'll start respecting that opinion, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, cool. If you're not drinking, you're not drinking." And again, as we've got older, that's got way easier. Like
that takes me back, to be fair, thinking of friends like that.
Yeah,
I used to have a friend in secondary school who liked some of the Devil's Lettuce.
Oh yeah.
And we used to go out, and he would offer me some, and every time I'd be like, "Nah, not for me." And he would never once go, "Oh, come on." Always was like, "Cool."
Yeah, and that's really important. I think it's important to find people like that. If you're in a situation where you're out and someone makes you feel uncomfortable because they either try and pressure you into doing something or they're trying to persuade you to get into drink or drugs or whatever it might be, or whatever, like I think if you are persistent in saying no, I don't want to do that, and they are persistent in yes, you're doing that, that person's not a true friend of yours.
Not at all.
And that is a really key lesson to learn when you're younger. And throughout life is to try and steer clear of those people, because anyone who really respects you as a person will just exactly like that. Like that's a really cool friend. Is that like, yeah, fair enough.
Honestly, one of my best friends in secondary school.
There you go. Because at the end of the day, you weren't into that, and you were just like, no, I'm not into that. And he had the respect to go, cool, I'm still going to do it. But if you don't want to get involved in it, that's on you.
He knew I respected him.
Yeah.
He knew I respected. That's your decision. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
He also respected my decision to be like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
And that I always respect that person, even to this day. I always respect that person for that decision to not try and force me into something that I wasn't interested in. Like I was quite fortunate in the friends that I had that did do that. they knew I had no ill will against them, sort of thing. They knew I didn't like not respect them or anything like that. They knew that I thought, cool, that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine. But they understood from my perspective, it wasn't something that was for me. I've never been interested in drugs or anything like that. That's never been, even if I'm in a group of friends that people will do stuff.
Yeah.
I've never been interested in it, and I've been very lucky to find people that even if they do substances, they're not trying to force me to do something.
Yeah, me too.
Do things like they kind of understand that that's just not my vibe.
Yeah,
that's just not how I you know.
And it's also really, it's a very good thing that you're that self-aware and you've got that dedication to your own cause. To not be pressured into doing that. And I'm very much the same. Like, maybe it's an only child thing, I don't know, but I've never been one to give in to peer pressure. Like, if someone tells me to do something, I'm less likely to do it. Like, if you leave me to make the decision on my own, I'll make the decision on my own.
100%.
But if you say, do this, do this, do this, I'm more likely to go, no, I'm not going to do that, because that's just who I am.
Yeah. Like, I've had, it's quite funny actually, because I've had exes that have been like, oh, like to friends and been like, oh, he's not doing this XYZ. Be like going out or something like that. And they've actually said, like, my friends have said to my exes and gone,
you're not going to persuade him.
You're not going to persuade him.
No.
You've got to let him come round on his own, of his own accord. You've got to let him, you know, come to the decision that, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm very much the way you are. I'm, if I'm told, let's do this, I'm less likely to do it.
100%, yeah.
I'm going to go.
I'm stubborn in that way.
Yeah, nah. And there is nothing on this earth that can move me from my stance.
Yeah.
When I have, I think it's the thing with me is like I have to have a level of understanding. If someone comes to me with a statement and I believe that I don't think you're right with that, if they come to me and go, well, let me explain it, I'm more likely to understand and go, cool, I don't believe you, I respect it. Whereas if someone is like, oh, have a drink, I'm more likely to go, you know what, let's never talk again.
Let's not do that.
You know, like I'm very much of the nature of, if you respect me, I respect you. I think the base level
it's just mutual respect.
Is mutual respect.
Yeah,
100%.
true. Yeah,
base level is mutual respect.
About it like that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you know, I'm a firm believer as respect is earned, not given. You know, you don't just respect someone because of age, status, whatever.
No.
You don't just respect them. I respect people on their actions.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You know, if your actions show me that you are a good person or that you are a respectable person, whether or not I agree with you or whether or not I like you personally, I'm always going to respect you because you stick to yourself. You stick true to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I respect people that are willing to be themselves. You know, I respect the hell out of people that are willing to be themselves and that are willing in any situation. I just think, you know, if you're applying that pressure on someone else, that's not respectable.
No.
You know what I mean? Like me trying to tell you to drink. And you're like, no. Me carrying on is not respectable behaviour.
No, it's not.
So I would not expect respect from yourself.
Yeah.
If you get what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I think it carries over as well to sort of like the bigger things, the bigger decisions in life about people's identities in terms of like, you know, how do they fit in terms of their fashion, or how do they fit in terms of their sexuality even, you know, trying to conform to a certain group or something like that, or trying to dress a certain way because that's what they're expected to do.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think thankfully has changed a lot in society, in this country at least, in modern years, or the more recent years, is that like it's now kind of it's more acceptable to just be yourself and do what you want to do, and that's really cool. But like there's probably definitely a lot of people out there who are still trying to conform to a certain group because they're worried about
they're worried about
backlash.
They're worried about the backlash.
Yeah.
And I think if you're worried about the backlash, I get it. I get the fear. I understand the fear. I was very worried about backlash when I grew out my hair. You know, when I painted my nails for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, I was very worried about the backlash. I was very worried about, you know, what are you doing that for?
Yeah.
But it all comes back to the same point of, you know, it's your body.
Yeah.
You make the decision. If someone else doesn't like it, well, screw them.
Yeah.
That's not their body.
Yeah.
They don't have a choice on that. If you want to get a tattoo, you get a tattoo. If you want to get a piercing, you get a piercing. Whatever you want to do with your body is your right.
Yeah.
It's no one else's. No one else can tell you what you can and can't do with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, how you want to behave, how you want to be. You know, within reason, obviously.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
But the fact of the matter is if you feel pressure from people you call your friends, I'm sorry, they're not your friends.
Yeah. Simple as that, really, isn't it?
It's as simple as that.
It takes a long time to learn that, though. It's like
it does. It absolutely does.
I suppose there's probably people that are in that position. They think that, yes, I have to conform to this group of people because they don't have anyone else right now.
Yeah.
But it's the same as a relationship. Like, if you're being forced to do things that you don't want to do, then I guess it's not a healthy situation to be in. There's got to be give and take, and you've got to be on the same page.
100%.
Especially with regards to like important life choices, like obviously like sexuality, for example, is a whole different thing. Like if you're struggling with like coming out to friends or family or something like that, that's a whole different ball game. But at the same time, it does kind of factor into this because there are probably a lot of people that are in that situation and they are just trying to conform to what society deems as like a normal group of people or whatever. And it's the same for like families, for example, trying to start a family. Are people just trying to conform to what is the society norm rather than go their own path?
100%. I think for me at least, like I've always said I'm not sure on kids, and I'm pretty certain that I don't want kids.
Yeah.
And that's not from a level of like not wanting to conform. That's a level of the world is a terrible place. I do not want to bring kids into this world when the world is in the state that it's in.
Yeah. It's a tough one, isn't it?
So for me, like conforming is a I understand it differently, I guess. Conforming for me is just not being true to myself. That's how I understand it, and I'm sure that's probably the same for a lot of other people. You know, if you're not being true to yourself, you're conforming.
Yeah,
because you're conforming to something that you don't believe.
Yeah,
and I think you should always push and strive to show like what you. What's the term that I'm trying to look for? Practice what you preach. You should always practice what you preach. If you believe something, then cool, believe it. Don't let anyone tell you different.
Yeah.
If that is how you want to live your life, live your life.
Yeah.
And I think we see it too often these days with social media influence.
The thing I was thinking of is people that do OnlyFans.
Fair.
Because there's obviously been like a big boom of that online, and you see like all of the big pages on Instagram, like all the meme pages, we were talking about this earlier, all the big meme pages are now promoting these OnlyFans models that like the majority of their audience is just like, I don't want to see that on my screen, I just want to scroll past. But like it's a tricky one because it's like that's not what society deems as a normal job. And there's a lot of people who will fundamentally disagree with what those people do. But at the same time, like you say, it's that person's body, that person's choice. And if that's how they want to earn their money, and fair play to them, they're all very well off.
I think these...
Like, again, it's like, did they get to a point where they were like, that's what I want to do because it makes me feel good and it earns me good money? Was there a cut-off where they were like, I don't need to fit in. I can take my own path and I can battle that path. It must be a hard decision to make.
I can't imagine the decision, like how you come to that conclusion when, you know, for a lot of these models, it must cost them a lot.
Emotionally,
and not only emotionally, but like family wise. If you don't really have an understanding family, that must be hard. And do you know what? I have the greatest respect for women that choose that path.
Yeah, me too. Because
it's a hard path to take.
It is, yeah. And you know, when I think about it from my perspective, I wouldn't want my girlfriend doing that. Like if I had a girlfriend and I was with a partner who I was trying to build a life with, I would not want them doing that, because I wouldn't be comfortable with it. And likewise, if I had a daughter, I wouldn't be comfortable with them doing that and putting themselves in that danger. But at the same time, that's not me saying I'm against it at all. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm completely pro-choice, and you know, how someone wants to earn their money and what they want to do with their body is absolutely their prerogative. But I know that I'd be uncomfortable in that situation. So it's that fine line, isn't it?
I think I've always said that I would be okay with it.
Yeah,
I've always said I would be okay with it.
Yeah.
And that's not a case of like me just saying, oh yeah, anything goes. It would come with a lot of conversation and a lot of understanding on both parties.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of those things that you can agree with, but there is a level of understanding of that comes with a lot of trust and a lot of, you know, a lot of understanding, like I said, on both parties, a lot of conversations of what's okay and what's not okay. Because at the end of the day, in that respect, when there's a partner involved, there has to be an understanding, and there has to be a level of respect of the other person's boundaries, as well as, well, this is what I want to do. There has to be a level of respect for both boundaries. And you know, at the end of the day, if there's something you can't move past, then it's not going to work out. That's how it is. But as long as there's that level of respect, I don't think that, you know, for me at least, it wouldn't.
Fair enough, yeah. I mean, I can't say I've ever come across that situation, and I'm single. So
no, neither have I. Neither have I.
But, you know, just, food for thought, isn't it? But yeah, and it's the same. I always think the same about, like, you know, like Comic-Con and things like that. Like, that is kind of the ultimate expression of people that band together
That's why I love going.
to not want to conform, you know.
Yeah, that's why I love going.
People that dress up, and they might have loads of makeup on, and they might, you know, dress up as fictional characters, and you know, it's like excuse me, you see that video where Jay Swingler went to I can't remember what country he was in, but there was like a furry convention, and it was all people dressed up and all the rest of it. And he was like, he walked in, he was like, this is so bizarre, but like, fair play to these people for finding their people. And it is like that, and it's like, a lot of people that they associate with in their day-to-day life might not really agree with what they do or how they go about their business. But again, it's not about conforming, it's about finding people who are like-minded, within reason, of course. But
it all comes down to respect, mutual respect.
Yeah.
You know, like with the OnlyFans thing that we were saying, you are vehemently against it. I'm kind of like, with discussion and with open discussion, I would be okay with it. I don't see a problem, but we equally respect each other's opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
I don't think that you're incorrect.
No, likewise.
But equally so, you don't think I'm incorrect.
No,
it's just not something for you, and it's just not something for me.
Exactly.
Like it is that level of like, the point is that level of understanding. You know, when you're thinking that you need to fit in somewhere, you don't. You just need to have a level of understanding of everyone else around you.
They might be doing the same thing.
Because they might be doing the same thing.
They might be on a fake persona.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I don't think you realise that in the moment.
No.
But when you look back on it, it's like, maybe that person was just trying to fit in too. And if you were to all step back and just take a second to be a bit more realistic and be yourself, maybe you'd get out of that.
And the thing, I catch myself doing it.
Yeah,
you know, when I'm
natural.
at work, I catch myself doing it. Yeah. I might hold back on a joke that I would have said in front of, you know, you, or I might hold back on like one thing that's abundantly clear to anyone listening or viewing is that I make a lot of jokes about my brain damage.
Yeah,
I make a lot of jokes about my brain damage, and I understand that for some people they might find that uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I get that.
But that's just your sense of humour.
That's just my sense of humour. Yeah. That's how I progress with my condition.
Yeah,
I make fun of it. I laugh at it because when you can make fun of something that hurts you, you own that.
That's true. Yeah.
You then are in control of that. And if it upsets you and it hurts you, but you can laugh at it, it then doesn't upset you as much as it used to. It then gets so small that you just crush it with your palm and you think, you know what? Why was I even bothered by that?
Yeah.
And that's my mentality. That's the way I process things, like, you know, processing traumatic situations or bad situations. I make fun of it.
Yeah.
I've always
I like that about people. I think that I would like to say I'm quite a good judge of character. I tend to be able to sniff out when people aren't being genuine. And I think that's something that I've probably learned as part of this process of trying to fit in when I was younger. And then as I've progressed through my adult life, less and less felt the need to do so. And there will always be situations where I feel like I need to fit in, or that you want to fit into a certain crowd, and especially when you're trying to impress someone. But I think the key takeaway is that you're bound to experience this in your life, especially when you're younger, and it's okay to gravitate away from that and to open up to your own ideas more.
But I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's a process.
100%
it's a process.
Yeah. It's not an overnight.
Yeah, it's not an overnight. When you're younger, you naturally, like with the smoking thing, you naturally you conform.
Yeah.
Because you think, oh, that's the way it works. That's how it works.
Yeah.
When it doesn't work like that, you can do and you can be yourself, but you're still learning. It's a process. It's okay to make mistakes along the way. Just know that, you know, eventually you'll work it out. It isn't always a case of you understand it straight away. You understand how to be yourself.
It's personal growth.
Exactly. You're growing all the time as a person. You're not, in 5 years from now, I'm not going to be this person. I'm going to be someone new. And that's a crazy way to think of it, but it is the truth. I'm not going to be the same person I am in 5 years.
No one is really.
Exactly.
I do believe a leopard never changes its spots in some regards, but at the same time, you do learn and grow.
Nature is unchangeable. Personality changes. You know, you grow as a person, so your personality naturally changes to fit that.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I think that's a good place to wrap up on that one.
Yeah.
Interestingly, so I picked a dilemma out for today.
Oh, okay.
And this dilemma really fits in, I think, with the topic, and it's going to be an interesting one. So we did touch on this a little bit earlier in the episode when we were talking about how, like, having families is kind of a society, a norm, I guess, like to especially kind of at our age. But this is a post that I found on Reddit that kind of ties in with that. So the title of the post is just "Choosing to have kids is selfish." And I'll read it out. So it says, "I am a young adult and I think that I want kids one day. Later down the line, no, not right now," which is pretty much how I feel about it as well. So I can relate to that. "But I'm having a moral dilemma about it because I almost think that actually it's selfish, even if I get the choice one day. It's led me to wonder why people choose to have kids in the first place. Is there a morally and ethically good reason to have them? To me, when you think about it, it seems self-serving. There's not really a purpose with the world being so overpopulated, and it automatically makes me not like most older people who choose to have kids. For one reason, I think deep down, some people just want to have a little mini-me because it gives them confidence and inflates their ego, or they just want to pass down their silly genes. I have my hang-ups on my personal life, so maybe I'm wrong."
See, I think me and this person have a very similar mentality.
This is what I thought when I picked it out, because in my opinion, right, I've always had this thought in my head, and we've joked before where it's like, oh, I didn't choose to come into this world. I just, our parents had us and we didn't have the choice, right? Yeah. Talked a bit about that during our mental health podcast. It's an interesting one because in a way, when you really deep it and actually think about the real crux of it, having children is a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? Really, because it's about what you want. It's about passing on your genes, passing your generation to generation, and having your family continue. And it's about you and someone that you find special in your life having a bond with someone and creating a little version of yourself. I think it's a very beautiful thing. But I also look at it from a perspective, if you take all of the emotional stuff out and the, the family heritage and blah, 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 all of the kind of the emotionally invested and driven stuff. If you look at it from a factual perspective, the world is overpopulated. We know this. We know this 100% factual information. We know that we are damaging the world because of that overpopulation and because of the way we treat the world and the environment. We also know that the world is a particularly difficult place right now. Economy, politics, health, environment. We also know that the only certainty in life is death. So we know that in terms of... And taxes. So we also know that when you have children, eventually they're going to have to go through trauma. They're going to have to bury their parents, potentially. They're going to have to go through heartbreak. They're going to have to come to their deathbed one day. And yes, it is a natural thing for humans to procreate and to have children, because that's the nature of any animal, any mammal, is to have kids, right?
Yeah.
That's the nature of it. But when you actually have the choice, what is the purpose of it? Because if you have children, it is for your own benefit when you think about it, because it's to create your family, it's to enjoy time with that family, and it's beautiful, it's lovely, and I will do it, I hope, and I encourage other people to do it. But I completely understand this perspective, because the other side of it is that's another person polluting the planet. That's another person who might be depressed. That's another person who has the struggles of day-to-day life. That's another person who, they might go through hardship. They might contribute badly to the world. Equally so, they might do good. They might go on to do great things. They might cure a disease. They might, donate loads of money to charity. They might do loads of great, but what's the actual purpose of it? And I think that's what this is getting at.
Yeah, and I think for me, being a person on the other side of that fence of I don't really want kids. Like I said, I can't remember if it was last episode or this episode, I don't want to bring a kid into this world. This world's, screwed up. This world's an absolute mess right now. And I couldn't, in good conscience, bring a kid into this world knowing that potentially there's a higher chance of them suffering than there is a chance of them having a good life. And don't get me wrong, that's just my view on it. It's not to say that every child's going to, suffer
no, of course not, no.
in this world, because we're very fortunate in this country, especially, that we got a lot of free healthcare, and that there's a lot more going for the future populace than there is our generation, maybe.
Yeah.
But for me, it is. I wouldn't say it's selfish. I think that's probably a little bit extreme.
Potentially.
But I would agree that it is self-fulfilling,
Yeah, it's because it's what we want.
It's what you want. It's not whatever your child's going to be.
Yeah.
Your child, doesn't want this because they don't have any emotions or feelings yet.
And also, let's be honest, having a child isn't going to be of financial benefit to you.
No.
I mean, maybe eventually they'll go on to become a millionaire and give you some money, whatever. But in general, the day-to-day person, the child is a financial burden, right?
I've always said,
and it's a difficult thing to do. It's a difficult situation to be in, and of course, a lot of people will have children. There might be accidents that might happen. They might not. They might not like the idea of abortion. There might be reasons why they get put in that situation, which is fair enough. But if it's a choice that you've made, then chances are it's because you want it, not as opposed to the fact that it's actually a good thing, if that makes sense. Exactly.
And I've always said that if you're going to make the decision to have a child, you need to have the financial, you need to have the stability.
Ideally,
first. Yeah. Because if you have a child without that stability, without some level of financial... Because don't get me wrong, you don't have to be rich, but you have to have enough financial stability to actually be able to feed, clothe, look after, put a roof over the child's head. I think if you don't go in with those fundamentals, it's irresponsible. At that point, it is selfish.
Yeah.
At that point, you are doing it just because you want to, not because you can look after the child and not because you have the ability to look after the child.
Yeah.
I'm a very firm believer of, and I have the utmost respect for those who choose and understand that maybe they're not in the position to have a child if they got pregnant. I have so much respect for those people that understand it and either, you know, give the child up for adoption or have an abortion.
Yeah, it's tough.
I have respect because it's A, very tough on the body. It's very tough on the body. And B, it's an emotional, it's a traumatic and emotional time.
And equally, on the flip side, it could be considered selfish in a way to not have children if you're able to, and there is someone who really wants children who is unable to. That's another part of the dilemma.
That is another part of the dilemma.
Fascinating...
Yeah, no, I'll be honest, I didn't actually think of it that way.
Yeah. You know, someone might not be unable to have kids for medical reasons or whatever,
and I feel sorry for them if they're people that want kids, because I know people that can't have kids that really want kids.
Yeah.
And I can't fathom how hard it must be for them, how hard it must feel for them.
But again, is this whole thing, is part of it at least just to fit in, just to be like, that's what everyone else on my age range is doing?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like with some people it is. I feel like with some people they go into it with a warped sense of, I have to have a family.
Yeah.
I have to have a house and kids.
Because it's a culture thing.
Because it's a culture thing or whatever.
Yeah, it's huge in other cultures. You look at like Indian culture, for example. In certain cultures in India, there's a massive focus on, you know, even if it's like arranged marriage, for example, in certain locations, the whole thing is like, that to be successful is to have a really large family, and I don't think that's so much here. There's still definitely a bit of a social construct about it. I think like to have a family is still considered successful. I think not so much in those other countries. Maybe
I think it is still kind of a thing over here to have kids, have a family, get a house. That's the biggest misconception for me is the house bit.
Yeah.
A flat is still somewhere to live.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need a 3-bed house.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if you've got a roof over your head, you've got a roof over your head. That's the main thing. But anyway, that's off topic. But for me, I don't want kids.
Yeah.
But I don't want kids for the fact of, not from a selfish standpoint, but from a, God, this world does not want more people right now. It needs healing first. So
I've actually just pulled up the thread that I got this from, just to have a look at what people's responses were. So I mean, one of them just says, going the way of dinosaurs and deliberately choosing extinction is better.
I mean, fair.
This one's interesting. Have you considered that it's not selfish at all because you're giving life and love to someone? Some people want to live vicariously, but that doesn't have to be you. You've got the opportunity to give life and then to follow that up with unconditional love, where you encourage them to be whoever they want rather than just what you want, which is a really powerful thing.
Thinking about it like that, you know, I get why people want to have kids. It's not a fact of, I don't sit here and I say I don't want kids, so you shouldn't have kids. It's not. I understand that people want to have kids. I think, like that said, there's a very fine line between having kids for the sake of having kids just because I want a mini me running around, or having kids for the fact that you know you're going to love and develop that child.
This one kind of speaks to that. It says, of course it's selfish to have children, considering what's going on in the world. However, raising them correctly will require plenty of selflessness to make up for it. So it's quite a balance.
I agree. I would absolutely agree.
It's such an interesting debate because, you know, and again, I'm still on the fence of, like, I'm still in the bracket of I want kids eventually, and that's probably for me because that's what I want. I want that family dynamic. I want to bond with a child that is mine. That's what I want. Again, is that selfish? I don't know. It's really fascinating because it's not necessarily about what's right or wrong. It's just about you know, are we doing that to fit in with society, or are we doing it because it's a natural instinct? Or
yeah, I also think that you very much, you are born with a parental instinct, or you are born without a parental instinct.
Maybe, I don't know.
You know, I'm very much, I do not have a parental instinct. I'm not, you know, I'm not, I don't have it in me. I don't, or at least I don't feel like I have it in me to be a
Maybe
parent.
that's just a personal development thing. Maybe you're just not got to that point in your life.
Maybe, but for me, I think I would have felt some level of, I'm around my friends' kids all the time.
True, yeah.
I would have felt some level of...
Yeah, I must admit, like, I'm not so bad at the moment, but when I was with my ex and I would, like, be around kids, I would always get a bit broody, like, because I think when you're bonding with someone and you start to think of that mindset of, like, starting a family with that person, that kind of thing, I would always kind of have that, like, I would feel that, like, urge to, I really want that. Not so much now. I still think I'm pretty good with, like, my friends' kids and stuff like that. Like, I'm fine in those situations. I don't feel uncomfortable around kids. I do find them draining, don't get me wrong, but that's part and parcel, isn't it?
I don't have enough patience. Like, I just thinking on it, was thinking back to when I was at Kane's house, and I was playing the PlayStation with his little ones. Yeah. And the level of patience I had to have to not be like, press this button. You're doing it wrong. And I get it. He's a child. He's not going to understand.
You were there once upon a time.
I was there once upon a time. You know, the amount of games that I've revisited and gone, why didn't I do this when I was a kid? Oh, I was dumb. Yeah. Like, for me, like, that's having those moments with my friends' kids just reinforces this not notion, but this knowledge that I'm not a parental, you know. Don't get me wrong.
Enough,
I'd do anything for those kids. Yeah. You know, if they needed help, I would be there. But out of, I guess the way I would phrase it as out of a sense of duty, not a sense of parental.
Yeah. So, okay, feeling. Then, in which case, how do you feel about, let's say, for example, we skip forward 10 years and I've got a child, Tay's got a child, and everyone else around you who is currently in our friendship group, who are single or without family, all have children. How does that make you feel? Now, I know it bodes well that, for example, we've got two friends who we're really close with who do have children, who we still talk to pretty much every day and still make time for us. But there is also the element of, like, your family is your priority and always will be. So when everyone around you then has a family, how does that make you feel in terms of a fitting in standpoint?
Do you know what? Not actually phased.
No?
Because I'm very much a person that I'm happy if you're happy.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And that's not from a sense of like, oh, if you're miserable, I'm miserable. No. It's like, if you're happy, I'm happy for you. I'm always, or I like to think, at least, I'm always a big supporter of my friends. I'm always the guy that kind of sits there and goes, good for you. Like, well done, proud of you. And if that's the life that my friends choose, some of my friends have already chosen that life. If that's the life they choose, then I'm happy for them. I'm proud of them, you know, for bringing life into this world and nurturing those children. Because the thing is, our friends that have kids, I think they're really good parents.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Like, to the point where, no offense, I'm surprised. You know, like, you've grown up with these people.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
you've seen the stupid stuff that they've done. You sit there and you're like, damn. Okay, well done.
Grow up and take the reins,
exactly. So for me, like, I am so proud of those people.
Yeah, absolutely.
For doing right by their kids. And even if I don't want kids, it doesn't make a difference on how I feel about, you know, everyone else having kids around me. Yeah. I think for me, it's just a case of, I'm just the fun uncle.
Yeah. And that kind of bodes to what we were talking about earlier, is like, you don't feel the need to fit in.
No.
Like, you're your own person. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what everyone should aspire to be, is just, like, comfortable in your own skin. And
I assure you, I'm not someone to aspire to be.
No, but you know what I mean. Like, rather than someone who is a shell of themselves because they're trying to conform to everyone around them, you should just do what makes you happy. And that's
Please consider someone else.
Yes. Maybe we're not your mentors, but we speak some good advice at least. Maybe consult a professional. Oh dear. And on that terrifying bombshell, I do have a quote to end us out on. And this one, I guess, ties in a way because I feel like this is, I think this is Margot Robbie said this.
Oh, relevant.
Yeah.
Well, I say relevant. No, that's not the right word.
Hi, Barbie. So she said, and I think this was on like an interview or something. She said that everyone says that you're an overnight sensation, but it's not overnight. It's years and years of hard work. And
Well, I mean, for anyone who watches Neighbours, know where she started.
well, this is the thing, right? So,
Or was it Home and Away? One of the two.
whichever. The point is we were talking the other night about people who have just blown up on TikTok. And, you know, you look at some like people who seem like an overnight success, like Olivia Rodrigo, for example.
Yeah.
She is now worldwide superstar, but just blew up overnight on TikTok. But I imagine that she probably for years before that was writing music and sending it to people and not getting anywhere with it, or went through stage school or so. I don't know her history, but just as a vague example, it's so true because there are people that will just hit it big time overnight.
100%, yeah.
But that doesn't mean to say that they just got lucky. They probably had a lot of rejection before that, and they probably had a lot of times where they thought they were going to give up. So I think that's a really good message, to be honest, is that even if it looks like someone's just got lucky and got successful, probably not.
You got to understand
not.
the grind. You got to respect the grind behind it, because
Yeah.
overnight successes aren't overnight successes.
Absolutely not. And I think the reason I like this is because it does show that you don't always have to fit in, because I'm sure these people who have been through this, especially in like a media industry, for example, they probably, you know...
A really good example of that, Margot Robbie's just played Barbie, right? The most girly girl thing in the world, right?
Yeah.
She's a massive metalhead.
Yeah, she's not...
She is a massive
She's
metalhead.
a self-proclaimed not a girly girl.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that, to me, just shows. It speaks volumes about, you know, like, you can... I mean, she's an actress, so obviously she's portraying a character.
Yeah.
But, like, your like path will lead you through all these different routes, but if you stay true to yourself, you'll become the success is coming. The success is waiting.
In fairness, that's pretty much what the Barbie film is actually all about. It's basically about, like, you don't have to conform and fit in. Like, you can get outside of your box in a literal sense in case of the film, but, you know, in a metaphorical sense, you don't have to conform to a box. So, that's
you
it.
don't have to conform to a box.
Yeah. Step outside of said box.
Step out. Think outside the box.
Yeah, even if it's got an acrylic front and you can see out. Just step out. Step outside. Do your own thing. Be you. You do you, boo.
You do you, boo.
That should have been the quote, shouldn't it?
That should have been the quote. You do you, boo.
Yeah, that's basically what we're getting at. You just listen to an hour of that, and basically we could have just gone, you do you, boo. Yeah, that's a wrap. Yeah. Anyway, so my general advice is, if you felt the need to fit in at any point in your life, that's normal, but don't feel like you have to conform to that, because stepping outside of that, you might just discover yourself in the process.
Exactly. I think that's a powerful statement to end it on.
So thank you guys so much for listening. As always, please like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Please follow us, leave a review on Spotify.
5 stars on Spotify.
Yeah, 5 stars on Spotify would be awesome, and Apple Podcasts and Amazon and all that good stuff. And
you may be taking public transport to work, but we are the Uber. We are the Uber driver. We're the guy talking to you, having a nice little conversation with you. 5 stars, please.
Please. Actually, no, most people will probably rate people 5 stars for staying quiet.
You've just sat and listened to an hour of silence. Thanks for...
Yeah. If you made it this far, you obviously like listening to us talk. So, you know, that's always a good sign.
We can only apologise.
We can, for our antics. But yeah, please leave your comments as usual. Leave your submissions. We really appreciate all of the feedback. And hopefully when you come to next week's episode, I won't sound so awful, because I would have healed by next recording session.
Yes.
So thanks for bearing with us for a couple of weeks with regards to that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Have a great Monday. Have a great week.